Welcome back to B2B Growth. I'm Logan Lyles with Sweetfish Media. Today is another episode in our 5 Things series where we're talking to a lot of former guests here on B2B Growth about the 5 things they can't live without in life and in work. I'm joined again by a repeat guest, Adrian Cohn. He joined us back on episode 1093. He's the Director of Brand Strategy and Communications over at Smartling. He's also the host of the Move the World with Words podcast. Adrian, welcome back to the show, man.
Thanks, Logan. And I love what you're doing with this piece here. This is awesome.
Yeah, so many people have loved these little bite-sized episodes that we've been doing every Saturday since about February now. So let's dive into the 5 things you can't live without, man. You went straight for the heart on number 1, family and your dog. It's funny how many pets have come up in this 5 Things series already.
Well, it's hard to not list family, and my dog fits in the top 5 and in the top slot. My family has always been very close. In fact, I live in the same building as my parents. As odd as that may sound, I actually love it because every single day I take my dog for a walk and then I open the door to my parents' place. I unclip the leash. I let my dog go through the door and have a great daycare session. And then I pick him up at the end of the day.
That's phenomenal, man. I mean, with so many people being so, it's just normal these days, at least in our culture, here in the States, to just assume that we're states away from our closest family members. But there are some really great benefits, but to having them, so close, doggy daycare included. I love that.
It's great. And I have lived in another state before, in fact, multiple times. And I could say with certainty that now I'm back in New York. I love it. And this is the best situation I've had before.
Yeah. We do not have parents living in the same building, but we've moved away from Colorado multiple times, and family and the mountains keep calling us back. So I can relate to that, at least to some degree, man. Awesome. Well, number 2 on this 5 Things series, we've heard a lot about people's workout routines and the things that are enabling them, whether that's, their fitness app or their Peloton. It's something along those lines that made number 2 for you, right?
Yeah, I have a really deep passion for road cycling. And it's been a lifelong passion of mine. In fact, when I was a kid and I was learning how to ride a 2-wheel bike, I was in New Orleans at my grandparents' driveway, which was like really long and narrow. And when I got to the end of it, I had to get off the bike to turn it around. And I recall, and I'll never forget this, that a dog was off leash and it was sprinting towards me as I straddled the bike, and it bit me in the rear end. And I was probably like 6 or 7 years old. I have no idea. I was probably younger, maybe 5. Anyway, I ended up writing my college application essay all about that scenario and how it propelled me into being an avid cyclist, and how you can't let setbacks determine your path. Today, I ride a bike called the Emonda SLR, which is this super lightweight racing bike that is used by pros on the tour circuit. It's a thing of beauty. And over the weekends and during the week, especially in the summertime, I'm doing tons and tons of mileage. And at least once or twice a year, I go to Europe to ride in France or Spain.
That's awesome, man. Well, one, I'm glad that traumatic story didn't, cause you a fear and aversion of bikes or dogs, going back to number 1 on your list, because a lot of people that might be the case. And 2, it sounds like you learned some marketing lessons early in life to translate that situation into some storytelling, right?
Absolutely. In fact, that college essay, the title of it was Bitten by the Bike, which I think is a pretty good headline.
I love it, man. All right. Number 3 is, this black mirror that we carry around with us all the time. Number 3 on your 5 things is your iPhone, right?
iPhone. I have always been an Apple consumer and fan of all of the products that they've put out. I've followed Steve Jobs when he was alive very closely. I followed Tim Cook and the rest of the company very closely. And I remember watching the keynote when Steve Jobs introduced iPhone in 2007. And I was actually at their store in San Francisco when they sold the first iPhone. I remember seeing the first person come out of the store holding his iPhone in the air. And I got one maybe 2 or 3 months later, and I've never had a phone since then that was not an iPhone. And it's just hard to say I could live without it at this point. It's just such an important piece of our daily lives, and it allows me to connect with the world in a way that never really seemed possible before Apple introduced iPhone. And I just love using the product.
I love it, man. I love that story. It brings back memories. I was actually a journalism student in college, and I remember doing my internship with a newspaper out here in Boulder. And I remember I was at work and people were talking about like, hey, this new iPhone thing, like you can see maps and and it was like, well, the internet's been on phones, right? And I remember like people starting to like murmur about it. I remember some of those conversations. And I remember someone else going to one of the Apple stores and filming people in line and people coming out with the first iPhone sold at that store. And it brings back some cool memories. Also, just what I just said, if we're going to talk marketing for just a second, it's a great lesson to go back to that keynote and think about category design and category creation, because phones that were connected to the internet were not brand new. iPhone wasn't the first thing, but we knew them as PDAs. We knew them, as Blackberries was, Blackberry was the thing there. But instead of saying like, this is like a Blackberry, but better, it was a whole new category. And obviously Steve Jobs was the master at that.
He totally nailed that presentation. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so. Awesome, man. All right. So number 4 and 5 on the list. Number 4 is actually related to your work as a marketer. It's one of the apps that you cannot live without, something that's in your MarTech tool stack.
Yeah, Drift is what I think I wrote down. It's a major part of our funnel at Smartling, and we launched the product on our website in October of 2018, and then we launched Drift Automation, which is an additional piece of software that they launched in September of 2019. And we've just had transformative results with on-site chat and the ability to book meetings and converse with buyers on their schedule as opposed to on our schedule. So I'm a huge fan of the product. It's easy to use, easy to implement. We've had a lot of value, and the people who work for Drift have always been so supportive of our use case.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love to hear that. All right. Number 5 is another app more related to, personal productivity and personal life, maybe, rolling over into productivity at work. That's the Calm app, right?
Uh-huh. If you don't have the Calm app, you need to swipe up on your iPhone or whatever device you're using, switch over to the App Store and download it right now. Get a subscription. It's like $80 a year. And I'm so passionate about this product because I only got it at the beginning of the year, Logan, and I've used it basically every single day of 2020. And I have been able to realize such a different point of view on the day-to-day. Before there were peaks and valleys, and now it's more of a steady stream of cognitive behaviors and responses to day-to-day happiness and frustration, things that just are inevitable in anyone's life. And I've always found meditation to be something that is beyond my skill set. But the reality is, as long as you're sitting quietly in a room by yourself and paying attention to your breath, you're meditating. It's okay to have thousands of thoughts as long as you recognize that it's okay to have thousands of thoughts. And it's really cool. Yeah. The Calm app talks you through the process of learning how to meditate. And I've found it to be a transformative thing for me. So I would recommend it to anyone at this point.
That's really cool, man. We're not even a dozen episodes into this 5 thing series. And that's the second time that app specifically has come up when it comes to calm, meditation, winding down for sleep. I think all of us, kind of push the importance of sleep off today, especially those of us in B2B leadership roles. Definitely, man. And I think you bring something to light there for folks who have never, thought about meditation, just the concept of mindfulness. And you hit on it there, that you're aware of what thoughts are going through your head. You're deciding, thoughtfully where those next thoughts are going to go. That can give you so much more control and calm and just a more even state. I love that. I heard a podcast episode on the Craig Groeschel leadership podcast a while ago, and he was talking about it's not about time management, it's about energy management. And we waste so much mental energy a lot of times just in some bad habits and some things where we don't realize where we're spending our physical and our mental energy. And, you've talked about staying physically fit. You've talked about, mental state. Definitely dropped some good nuggets, man. I appreciate you being back on the show today. For anybody who didn't hear Adrian's last appearance on B2B Growth, we'll link to episode 1093 in the show notes. Check that out. Check out the Move the World with Words podcast. Adrian, where can people stay connected with you if they've been inspired a little bit today or they want to find your podcast, man?
So the podcast is at smartling.com/podcast, and you can listen to it on whatever media player you choose. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter. Adrian K. Cohn is the handle, ADRIANKCOHN. And I'd love to hear from people. And Logan, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely, man. This was a fun chat.
It certainly was. I hope you have a great weekend.
I hate it when podcasts incessantly ask their listeners for reviews, but I get why they do it, because reviews are enormously helpful when you're trying to grow a podcast audience. So here's what we decided to do. If you leave a review for B2B Growth in Apple Podcasts and email me a screenshot of the review to james@sweetfishmedia.com, I'll send you a signed copy of my new book, Content-Based Networking, How to Instantly Connect with Anyone You Want to Know. We get a review, you get a free book. We both win.